Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing to rest here for a while in this peaceful sanctuary. This story was created as a quiet space for your mind to settle, a gentle lullaby to help you find contentment and drift easily into sleep. If you find comfort in our time together, a simple like, a subscription, or a kind comment is always warmly appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the Vale of Stillness, a place spoken of only in whispers. Here, you will feel the soft chalk paths underfoot and breathe the scent of moon petals as a great and ancient wolf spirit watches over the valley, weaving a blanket of perfect peace from shadow and starlight. Chapter 1: The Scent of Stillness. One might suppose that all journeys end with an arrival, yet this one felt more like a gentle fading into a place that had been waiting all along. The path Finian walked was not of common stone or trodden earth, but of a soft powdered chalk that seemed to drink the sound from their very footsteps. All around, the air grew thick and still, carrying a scent one could almost feel, the cool, clean fragrance of ancient moss and the deep, rich perfume of damp, fertile soil. It was the smell of a world that had been left to its own quiet musings for a very long time indeed. A gentle current of air, a mere sigh through the impossibly tall pines, caressed Finian's cheek, feeling less like wind and more like a soft, welcoming whisper. The sun had already begun its slow retreat behind the rounded, moss-draped hills that cupped the valley, bleeding soft hues of apricot and lavender into the growing twilight. The light here was different, wonderfully diffused, as if filtered through 1,000 layers of fine, silken gauze, and it gave every leaf and blade of grass a soft, luminous edge. The world was losing its sharpness, its defined lines melting into a peaceful whole. Following the pale ribbon of the chalk path, which glowed faintly in the fading day, Finian felt the last vestiges of the loud, hurried world fall away behind them, as easily as letting go of a thread. There, nestled in a small clearing where the pines gave way to a meadow of soft, dark grass, stood a small cottage. It was a simple, sturdy-looking place, with walls of smooth, cream-colored plaster and a roof of thick, dark thatch that seemed to have grown from the earth itself. A thin ribbon of smoke, the same color as the evening clouds, curled from its chimney in a slow, languid spiral, a silent invitation into warmth and shelter. The cottage seemed to hum with a quiet sort of contentment, looking as much a part of the landscape as the ancient trees that sheltered it. The door, made of a single smooth plank of dark wood, felt wonderfully solid and cool beneath Finian's touch. It swung open with a soft, woody sigh, revealing a space of simple, profound peace. A single room lay within, its heart a stone hearth where embers glowed with a deep, orange warmth, already laid with fresh kindling for the night. The very air inside was infused with the comforting scent of old wood, dried herbs, and the faintest trace of beeswax, a perfume of pure and simple comfort. A sturdy wooden chair with a woolen blanket folded neatly over its arm sat beside the hearth, looking as if it had been expecting company. Finian stepped inside, pulling the heavy door closed, and the silence of the valley deepened into a profound, enveloping hush. The last of the day's light filtered through a single deep-set window, illuminating the swirling dust motes that danced in the warm air like tiny golden sprites. The floorboards, wide and worn smooth by time, felt solid and reassuring underfoot. Here was a place built for rest, a haven crafted from stillness itself, where the only sound was the slow, steady beat of one's own peaceful heart. It was in this deep and welcoming quiet that Finian first noticed the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Yet it was a sensation entirely without threat. It felt like the gentle, steady gaze of a loving guardian, a presence as old and as peaceful as the valley itself. It was a watchfulness that promised safety, a silent assurance that here, in this small, warm cottage, all was well. The feeling was as tangible as the warm air from the hearth, and as comforting as the soft blanket waiting on the chair. Finian took a long, slow breath, inhaling the scent of peace that permeated the small room. The gentle weight of their travels seemed to lift from their shoulders, dissolving into the warm, still air of the cottage. This was more than a shelter. It was a sanctuary. The journey had ended, and a deep, restorative quiet was just beginning. With a soft sigh of contentment, Finian moved towards the hearth, the promise of its gentle warmth and crackling song drawing them closer. The cottage held them in its quiet embrace, a small bubble of warmth and light in the deepening twilight of the valley. The world outside could wait. Here, there was only the scent of stillness and the promise of a long, peaceful night. Chapter 2. The Hearth's Gentle Hum. The wood in the hearth was wonderfully dry and caught the embers glow with a soft, eager whisper. Finian knelt on the smooth stone hearth, its surface still holding a faint, residual warmth from some earlier fire, and gently coaxed the flames to life. A small, golden tongue of fire flickered, then another, until a gentle, crackling chorus filled the quiet room. The sound was deeply comforting, a soft, percussive hum that spoke of warmth and safety. Its light, a living, breathing thing, pushed back the soft gray shadows, painting the plaster walls in dancing shades of amber and rose. The air immediately grew warmer, filled with the clean, pleasant scent of burning pine. Ati, on a small wooden table beside the chair, everything one might need for a quiet evening had been set out with a simple, thoughtful grace. There was a single clay mug, its surface worn smooth with use and glazed in a deep, earthy brown. Beside it sat a small wooden bowl filled with a loose blend of dried herbs and flowers, their faint, sweet fragrance rising to meet the warmth of the fire. A small kettle, dark and unassuming, waited patiently. It seemed less like a discovery and more like a memory of comfort, a scene of perfect, uncomplicated contentment. Finian filled the kettle from a water pitcher, the sound of the liquid pouring a soft musical splash in the stillness. Placing it on a hook over the growing fire, they watched as the flames licked its dark, rounded belly. The room was now filled with a companionable silence, punctuated only by the gentle snap and crackle of the burning wood. The woolen blanket on the chair, a soft weave of cream and gray, looked impossibly inviting, its texture promising a deep and gentle comfort. Finian settled into the chair, the old wood groaning softly, a sound of welcome. The warmth of the fire began to seep into Finian's very bones, a slow creeping comfort that loosened muscles and quieted the mind. The gentle light flickered across the room, catching the subtle texture of the rough-hewn ceiling beams and the simple, honest grain of the wooden table. It was a light that encouraged one's eyes to soften their focus, to simply rest and observe its gentle, ever-changing dance. Finian felt a sense of profound gratitude for this small, simple haven, a place of such uncomplicated peace. Soon, a soft, happy sighing sound came from the kettle as the water began to warm, a gentle prelude to its eventual quiet boil. Finian spooned some of the fragrant herbs, recognizing the soft, silvery leaves of chamomile and the tiny purple buds of lavender, into the clay mug. The mingled scents were immediately soothing, a perfume that promised calm and a gentle journey into sleep. The simple, mindful act of preparing the tea was a meditation in itself, each small movement deliberate and unhurried. When the water was ready, its steam rising in a soft white plume, Finian poured it over the herbs. The steam billowed up, carrying the full, warm fragrance of the tea, a cloud of pure tranquility that filled the small space. It smelled of summer meadows and quiet gardens, a scent that felt both wonderfully familiar and deeply comforting. The herbs swirled gently in the hot water, releasing their soothing properties and their soft golden color into the mug. Wrapping both hands around the clay mug, Finian felt its satisfying weight and radiating warmth sink deep into their palms. The texture was smooth, yet earthy, a pleasing anchor in the quiet room. They brought the mug close, breathing in the delicate steam, letting the comforting aroma settle their thoughts. The fire crackled softly. The room was bathed in a gentle, living light, and the world was reduced to this single, perfect moment of warmth and peace. With a final, gentle crackle, a log in the hearth settled into a bed of glowing embers, its work done. The room fell into an even deeper quiet, the fire now a soft, pulsing heart of warmth. Finian took a slow, careful sip of the tea. It was warm and smooth, a taste of pure liquid comfort that seemed to flow through them, washing away the last remnants of any lingering unease. Here, in the gentle hum of the hearth, wrapped in warmth and quiet, all was deeply and profoundly well. Chapter 3. The Weaver of Shadows. The warmth of the cottage was a comforting embrace, yet a gentle pull of curiosity drew Finian back to the door. The world outside had completed its slow transformation. True night had fallen upon the Vale of Stillness, a darkness so profound and so soft it felt less like an absence of light and more like a presence in itself. It was a velvety, enveloping dark, entirely without menace, that seemed to hush the very air. Stepping onto the small, smooth stone that served as a porch, Finian was met with a cool, gentle breeze that carried the clean scent of pine and the distant, sweet perfume of unseen night flowers. Finian's gaze was drawn upward towards the long, dark ridge that framed the valley, and there it was. At first, it was a shape that the mind could barely comprehend, a deepening of the darkness against the star-dusted sky. But as Finian's eyes adjusted, the form resolved itself into something vast and ancient and utterly magnificent. Upon the ridge, settled in a posture of serene repose, was a great wolf, its silhouette immense against the cosmos. Its form seemed woven from twilight itself, its edges soft and indistinct, with faint, distant stars glittering through its shadowy pelt like captured diamonds. There was no sound, no growl, not even the whisper of its breath on the wind. The creature was a study in absolute silent stillness. Its presence did not inspire a flicker of fear. Instead, a wave of profound peace rolled down from the ridge, a tangible thing that washed over the valley. It felt like a deep, resonant sigh of contentment, quieting the rustle of leaves in the trees and softening the gentle murmur of their hidden stream. This then was the guardian, the silent watcher whose gaze Finian had felt from within the cottage. As the great wolf settled more deeply into its watch, its head resting upon its immense paws, the very quality of the world seemed to shift. The shadows in the valley lengthened and deepened, losing any hint of sharpness and becoming pools of soft, velvety black. The silence, already profound, became something more, a rich, layered quietude that felt ancient and full of wisdom. It was as if the wolf was gathering all the loose sounds and stray anxieties of the world and gently tucking them away beneath a blanket of perfect, uninterrupted calm. From the wolf's still form, a subtle energy began to emanate, a low, gentle hum that was felt more in the bones than heard with the ears. It was the deepest and most soothing frequency imaginable, a resonant vibration of pure tranquility that seemed to harmonize with the slow, steady rhythm of Finian's own heartbeat. The very ground seemed to soak it in, and the ancient trees seemed to drink of this deep peace, their branches settling into a state of perfect repose against the night sky. The wolf was weaving a tapestry of rest, its threads made of shadow and silence. Finian stood, wrapped in the woolen blanket from the cottage, utterly captivated. This was a magic far older and gentler than any spell or incantation. It was a magic of being, of a presence so peaceful that it imbued its surroundings with its own essential nature. The air grew cooler, yet it was a refreshing coolness that felt clean and vital, carrying with it the earthy scent of the deep, sleeping forest and the moss-covered stones. The Twilight Wolf was not merely watching over the valley. It was an integral part of its nightly slumber. Its stillness was the anchor that allowed the world to drift into its deepest and most restorative rest. Its silent, steady gaze was a promise of safety, an assurance that for this night all would be quiet, all would be safe, and all could be at peace. The great shadowy head turned almost imperceptibly, its star-dusted gaze sweeping slowly across the sleeping vale. Finian felt a sense of belonging in that gaze, a feeling of being a small, cherished part of this immense, quiet picture. There was no need for words, no need for questions. There was only the cool night air, the scent of the sleeping earth, and the profound, humbling peace that flowed from the silent, starlit guardian on the ridge. The night was now complete, held securely in the wolf's gentle, unwavering watch. Chapter 4. A sky of luminous dust. Under the silent, steady watch of the great wolf, the sky above the Vale of Stillness began its own quiet transformation. The stars, which had at first appeared as sharp, familiar points of silver, softened and bloomed, their light becoming wonderfully diffuse, as if seen through a veil of sleeping water. The heavens took on an incredible depth, and from that depth, something new and beautiful began to emerge. Slow, silent rivers of light, like fine pearlescent dust, started to drift between the gentle stars. This was the luminous dust, a phenomenon born of the wolf's deep, tranquil energy, touching the upper reaches of the cool night air. It flowed in slow, majestic currents, swirling in gentle, soundless eddies and forming soft, glowing clouds that pulsed with a faint, internal light. The dust shed a delicate, otherworldly glow upon the valley below, a light so soft it seemed to have no source, illuminating the world in shades of gentle silver and the faintest hint of lavender. The tops of the pine trees were brushed with this light, their needles seeming to hold tiny, captured droplets of luminescence. Finian, wrapped snugly in the soft wool of the blanket, sat on the cottage porch step, which felt cool and solid. The air was perfectly still, and the only sound was the almost imperceptible hum of the valley's deep peace. All thought of sleep had been replaced by a state of gentle, wakeful wonder. The spectacle above was not dramatic or grand, but slow, meditative, and profoundly calming. It was like watching the slow, graceful thoughts of the universe drift across the canvas of the night. The soft light from the sky touched everything with a gentle magic. It traced the smooth curves of the stones in the cottage wall and pooled in the dark blades of grass, making them shimmer as if coated in a fine morning frost. The surface of the unseen stream likely caught this light too, its quiet waters now a flowing ribbon of liquid starlight. Finian's own hands, resting on the blanket, seemed to glow with a faint, silvery sheen. The world had become a softer, more dreamlike version of itself. As Finian continued to watch, their own thoughts began to slow, mirroring the languid, unhurried pace of the glowing currents above. The usual chatter of the mind, the endless lists and quiet worries simply dissolved, seeming unimportant in the face of such vast, gentle beauty. There was only the present moment, the feel of the cool, smooth stone, the comforting weight of the blanket, the clean scent of the night air, and the slow, silent, celestial dance. It was a state of being, not thinking, a complete absorption into the tranquil whole. The luminous dust carried with it a faint, cool scent, a fragrance like clean rain on ancient mossy stone. Finian breathed it in deeply, and it felt as though the very air was washing their mind clean, leaving behind nothing but a quiet sense of acceptance and peace. The gentle weight of the air, the soft touch of the blanket, the solid ground beneath, it all combined into a feeling of being perfectly safe, perfectly grounded in a world of gentle wonder. And so, there was no sense of time passing in the valley, only the slow, continuous drift of the glowing clouds. Finian could have sat there for an hour or an eternity. It would have made no difference. The state of peace was so complete, so all-encompassing, that the very concept of time seemed to melt away. This was the gift of the wolf's watch, not just a quietening of the world, but a quietening of the soul, an invitation to simply be present and observe the simple, profound beauty of the night. The glowing dust swirled into a slow, magnificent spiral directly overhead, its gentle light bathing Finian in a soft, ethereal glow. A single shimmering particle drifted down, slow as a snowflake, and landed on the back of Finian's hand. It was not cold or hot, but simply felt like a momentary touch of perfect stillness before it dissolved into nothing. In that small, silent touch, Finian felt the deep, ancient peace of the valley, a quiet blessing from the starry sky. Chapter 5. The Gift of a Quiet Dawn. Sleep did not arrive as a sudden descent, but as a gentle, gradual merging with the valley's profound peace. It was a seamless transition from wakeful wonder to restful dreams, and Finian awoke not to a sound or a disturbance, but to the slow, quiet return of gentle color to the world. The deep, velvety black of the night was yielding, softening into shades of deep violet and soft, dusky rose. The dawn in the Vale of Stillness arrived without a herald, a silent, graceful blossoming of light. From the window of the cottage, Finian could see the ridge, now a dark, soft silhouette against the brightening sky. The great Twilight Wolf was gone. Its watch was over, its duty fulfilled, and it had melted back into the shadows and whispers from which it came. Yet its presence lingered. The air itself felt cleansed, holding a deep, resonant calm, the lasting echo of the wolf's tranquil energy. The silence was different now, no longer the heavy, sleeping hush of deep night, but a light, expectant quiet filled with the gentle promise of a new day. Finian pushed the heavy wooden door open, and the morning air that greeted them was cool, crisp, and alive with the clean scent of damp earth and dew-covered leaves. It felt like the world's first breath after a long and perfect sleep. A fine silvery mist clung to the low parts of the meadow, its soft tendrils weaving between the dark trunks of the pines, catching the first rosy light of the sun. The sound of the stream was a little clearer now, a happy, liquid murmur that seemed to speak of restoration. A feeling of profound and lasting rest had settled deep within Finian's being. It was a stillness that was not empty, but full, a sense of quiet equilibrium that resided in the very core of them. The journey to this place had been for respite, and what they had found was something more, a deep and complete restoration of the spirit. The gentle magic of the valley, under the wolf's watchful eye, had washed away the weariness they had carried for so long. Stepping out onto the cool stone porch, Finian took a slow, deep breath, filling their lungs with the pure, vital air. The sky overhead was a marvel of soft, blended colors, and the first rays of sunlight were just beginning to touch the tops of the distant, rounded hills, painting them in a warm, gentle gold. There were no sharp sounds, only the soft sigh of the breeze and the distant, melodic call of a single bird waking in the woods. The world felt wonderfully gentle and new. Finian felt a soft smile touch their lips, an expression of simple, quiet gratitude. The peace of this valley was not something to be taken, but a gift that had been freely given. It was a quietness that could now be carried within, a small, internal sanctuary to be revisited in memory. The image of the great wolf on the ridge, a guardian woven of starlight and shadow, was etched into their mind as a symbol of perfect, serene strength. The cottage, in the soft morning light, looked even more a part of the earth, its thatched roof damp with dew and sparkling with 1,000 tiny points of light. The thin curl of smoke was gone from its chimney, the fire having died down to warm embers in the night. It stood as a humble testament to the power of simple shelter and the profound comfort of a quiet, warm place to rest. As the sun climbed a little higher, its warm, gentle light spread across the valley floor, causing the mist to begin its slow, graceful retreat. The day was beginning, but its pace was the valley's pace, unhurried, gentle, and calm. Finian knew that while they might leave this place, the deep, abiding peace of the Vale of Stillness, the gift of the Twilight Wolf's last watch, would remain with them always, a quiet hum beneath the noise of the world, a lasting memory of a perfect healing stillness.